All right, guys. Not too long ago, I did a video on the Majority Report, kind of explaining issues with bandwagon political shit and how like intellectual dishonesty goes on just for the sake of making their platform happy. They never say anything that could potentially be considered divisive to their own collectivist group. And it makes it to where, at least it should make it to where you can't trust them. People naturally have differences of opinion on various matters, and it's almost never perfectly like all left, all right. Like that don't happen naturally. If you at least okay, let me change that a little bit. If you take the time to actually understand political issues and you look into them, each individual is gonna kind of slide all over the place. It's one reason why I don't like the current dynamic of the political spectrum. It's very misleading because people, if they take the time to learn about the issues, are gonna, don't get me wrong, because there are personality, and I've said this before, there are personality characteristics that make people lean in certain directions. And of course, there's primary reasons for that, like conservatives tend to be higher in conscientiousness. People on the left tend to be higher in openness. And that is naturally going to cause people to fall in certain camps, so to speak. But it won't be across the board and it won't be absolutely perfect because people are different in their experiences and their own biases and everything. Anyhow, I'm kind of getting into a tangent and I'm going to try to keep this short because this is going to be a long one. I think this is an important one. Some of you, well, just like any topic, some of you won't care about this at all and don't watch, but I think this is important. So there's a couple of things this is going to get into. This is going to get into feminism. This is going to get into men's right activism. This is going to get into collectivist attachments and how you associate your identity to a particular political spectrum and how that influences your ability to think logically and be honest. At least in my opinion, it's kind of difficult to pinpoint if someone's directly lying. So this is sort of like it's not just a hunch or a complete assumption because it's based on things that I can measure, like facial expressions, vocal tone, etc. But it's not, admittedly, it's not like a perfect science. It can't be. I can't get inside people's head. But these are my opinions. I'm going to pull up a video and I'm going to kind of give you my opinions on it and things that I think are particularly important to the point I'm making. It's what this is all about. I'm probably going to pump up the playback a little bit so that it's quicker because this is, I think, a 27-minute video. But it's very telling in my opinion and the issues that I have with certain things like the Majority Report. So I'm going to offend some people. There's no way around that. There's going to be people that are going to strawman my position because they get emotional and they have certain biases that make it to where they're incapable of seeing things logically. I'm not trying to make the case that I see everything perfectly logically, but at least in this particular instance, you're not going to be able to make a compelling case that I'm wrong. And if you think you can, feel free to do so. So I'll start with, I am both a feminist and a men's rights activist. It's very silly and stupid to have this competitive sort of camp thing about it. Because the truth of the matter is there are certain things in society that men have issues in, or men have less of a fair shake, so to speak, than women. There are issues where it's completely the opposite, vice versa. We should be striving to fix both of these. And we can only do so if we can speak honestly. We don't just automatically point to people and go, you're a fucking bigot or whatever, when there's no evidence for that. It's just assumptions of intent. We need to be able to talk about these things so we might actually be able to get somewhere. So some of you, because I know how many people's mind work, are automatically going to go, oh, he fucking hates women. Oh, he's a male chauvinist. And I can't stop you from doing that. I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, you're not going to be able to make a very compelling argument for it because it's absolutely retarded, and I'm not. But at least try, like, put some effort into seeing things from my perspective and realizing this does not come from a place of wanting to reign over women or to like seal my fate as like a person that like has a deserving spot in a certain hierarchy in society just because I'm a man. Like, don't fucking straw man me. That's all I'm asking. Okay. Many people are, to be frank, retarded when it comes to this sort of topic. And it's why it's difficult to have this sort of conversation. In my opinion, and by the way, I don't disagree with every point they make, and I'll go into this probably in a little more detail. But the specific things that I address, I think, are logical. They're fallacious ways of thinking, and I'll explain why. But I believe that the issues are common among the people that are generally on panel and the majority report. Okay. Here we go. Before I show the screen, I want to change the playback speed. Let's do 1.5 to start with and see if that's too bad or too quick. Present, share screen. I have ADHD, so get used to me talking to myself. It's how I keep my brain occupied. Here we go, share. All right, let's get this started. I will try my best, because this is long, to only pop in when it's really relevant, because it kind of makes me angry at points, but like I'll try not to just be impulsive and fucking take up too much time just rambling on.
I've been watching some of your episodes recently, and some of your viewers have advised me to call in. I am a men's rights activist.
You're a men's rights activist?
Moderator of several men's rights groups.
I'm going to slow it down. That's too fast for you to be able to catch the specific cues that I'm looking for and talking about. Geez, I can't focus. Let's do 1.25. That's slightly above.
Groups.
Okay.
And I feel like the men's rights movement is very much misunderstood. I've called in C-SPAN before. I've written articles.
Look at their faces immediately. They've already made up their minds. They've already, everything's already figured out for them.
If someone told you they were a men's rights activist, what would your perception be? Like, how would you see that first gut reaction?
My first gut reaction? Do you want me to be totally honest?
Of course.
I think you're a lunatic.
Okay, so you say lunatic.
Yeah, you asked me to be honest, and I wasn't going to disrespect you by not being honest. So that was my first thought, was like...
I would ask for nothing less than the truth, and that's absolutely fine. I get that reaction all the time, and I understand why that's your reaction. Right. I see all these articles that are equating the men's rights movement to like the alt-right, to like incels, to misogynists, and what I'm trying to get across is that that is not what the men's rights movement is actually about. And
well, why don't you tell us what the men's rights movement is actually about?
Okay. I would say there are both legal and social disparities that affect men and boys around the world. So both instances of legal discrimination that hurt men and boys, and different social standards and double standards that affect men and boys. And we would like to bring attention to these disparities and discriminations, both legislatively to fix the laws and make them equal, and socially to get people kind of talking about it. Hey, you know what? I've noticed this is true. This is a double standard that affects men.
Right.
How come when a guy gets a girlfriend, people think it's funny, etc.?
Okay. Now let me ask you this, because I'm sure you have a long litany of legal disparities that you're aware of, and of social slights. Like, how come people think it's funny when a guy gets dumped by his girlfriend, but not when a girlfriend gets dumped by his guy? I mean, like, I don't know how to measure that.
Hit.
Oh, no.
Hit,
yeah.
Hit. Okay. Oh, hit. Okay.
I will say for the record, I do not think either is funny.
Okay, but fair enough. Let me just stipulate some of those things without even hearing them. What, at the end of the day, is the net implications of this?
I think, and this has been backed by studies of human psychology, there is a tendency, a subconscious tendency, to show less empathy towards a male than a female. And they demonstrated this with a study where they offered participants money to give electric shocks to a random stranger. And the shocks would increase in pain with each time. Now, of course, they weren't real shocks, and they were just told that. But people were more willing to hurt a man than a woman. Both men and women were both more willing to hurt a man than a woman. And I think people have a blind spot when it comes to male issues, because the narrative is that men are privileged.
But this is not now. When you talk about the psychology of people having less empathy for men, and I can that doesn't. I mean, I haven't seen those studies, but it's not. That doesn't seem completely. It's not hard for me to imagine. What does that have to do with rights?
Well, for example, in a lot of countries, the state pension age is higher for men than for women.
Is that in this? It's not in this country.
No, in this country we have.
Well, let's just keep it within the United States, because I don't know. I also know. I mean, can we agree that there's also probably more countries around the world that are not the United States where women have far less rights than men? That even if you can find countries where the pension age,
I would absolutely agree.
Okay, so let's just keep. Hold on, can you let me finish? Excuse me. You got your own YouTube show, right?
I do.
Okay, so if you want to throw out random stuff like this, you can do that on your show. But I just want to ask. I want to try and just sort of like, because I am quite sure, although I cannot list it, and I want to be clear on that if we were to survey the laws around the world, that women have far less rights around the world as a net than men. And if you have to go to the pension age for men as like if that's your top line, I feel very confident in saying that.
Well, no, first of all,
because we have a lot of countries where women can't even drive.
It's because women live longer. That's why the pension age, right?
But put that aside for a moment.
Hang on.
Can we just stay in the United States so that we can have this conversation?
I want to ask what Emma just said. Emma just said it's because women live longer. Now, I don't think that pension ages should be different based on gender. But if anything, if one was to make a logical argument based on how...
Correct. The pension age would be shorter. Okay, lower. Now listen to me.
I do want to kind of, from my perspective at least, so far, Emma jumped in, and typically if you have a person that's not just someone that wants to draw attention to legitimate men's differences that need addressed, they will get angry when a female person responds because they're conditioned that way. Like they tend to look at the world as in women are the cause of all evil type shit. And they're like the male version of a feminazi. I've talked about this before. He doesn't show any signs of that. She brought up a point, and he takes it like as, okay, I've heard that before, and that's okay, let's get into this. He doesn't seem offended at all that she brought it up, and he doesn't seem to have an issue with her, I guess, is what I'm showing here. And this is all we have to go on. There's a lot of assumptions that automatically get made. It's like human nature. And you saw it with all three of them whenever he first called in and said he's a men's rights activist. Like they already had like their mind made up to a certain extent, which is extremely unprofessional. But I want you to notice as we go in here how he responds to the Nomiki, I think it is. I may have pronounced it wrong. That's kind of funny because of what happens, but you'll see. She has a completely different attitude. Completely different. She's not like Emma. And you'll notice that she is very entitled, very matter of fact, and like completely shits on him as if his opinion has no merit whatsoever, just because he's a man, not because of the things he's saying, but because he's a man. And you can tell. Look for it.
Listen, dude, no, you hang on. I don't want to talk about the pension age in some random country.
By the way, Sam is constantly having to get him on track, but I don't feel, at least from my perspective, that Sam is being unfair. He's doing what he always does, and it's kind of part of what you have to do as a host. And he's trying to keep things on track here, and he wants to keep things short if at all possible. Well, yeah, it's part of the issue. Speaking of which, I'm going to continue.
Somewhere else. I want you to explain to me how, listen, stop talking for a second and let me finish. I want to talk about what rights have to do with the fact that there's a psychological study that show that people are less empathetic to men. What rights do you think that men are denied, and what material difference do you think that that lack of empathy provides in the United States that allows me to believe that my energy should go into making sure that men have equal rights, as opposed to the people who have, only recently had the right to have a credit card in their name, or only recently had the right to vote, et cetera, et cetera?
In the United States, exclusively.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's stay with the U.S. And first of all, I know what you're saying about women not having a credit card until 1973, but at the same time, 18, 19, 20-year-old boys in 1973 and before were being drafted to die in Vietnam.
Right. And I think you'll find that people advocated for...
Let's fix it today. In the U.S. today, for example, Obamacare allows for an annual women's wellness visit, which is an annual physical for general health. Men...
Oh, my God. Thank God.
Men pay for insurance for Obamacare. They do not...
See your attitude?
Get the same health care under Obamacare that women will get. Prostate cancer screening is also not covered under Obamacare. Prostate cancer is the cancer a non-smoking man is most likely to die from. The only cancer that kills more men than prostate cancer.
Dude, when do you get it? When do you get prostate? When do you get prostate cancer?
I'm sorry?
When do you get prostate cancer? When is
this was actually a valid point on Sam's part.
You need to worry about prostate cancer.
That dude is being
more
illogical.
men die of prostate cancer.
I understand. What is the age? What is the age?
What is the age I will get prostate cancer?
What is the age when men contract prostate cancer?
It is the cancer that...
No, I didn't ask you what the age is. I didn't ask you what the cancer is. I know what prostate cancer is. I'm asking you, at what age do you think you're most vulnerable, that you really need the screening?
60 and above.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of Medicare?
Yes.
Okay. Obamacare, the ACA, deals with people who get up to the age of Medicare.
But not everybody is over the age of 60 when they get prostate cancer.
No, I understand that, but you also don't. You're not getting mammograms if you're a 25-year-old woman on Obamacare.
But a 25 woman gets breast cancer and die.
It's not about breast cancer. Women are going to the OBGYN for the birth of children and for reproductive health. Men cannot carry
babies. The point is the health needs.
But a 55-year-old man can still develop advanced stage prostate cancer, but he would not have screening available.
I understand. But dude, you understand that the way that they determine these things is not a function of the possibility. It is the function of the likelihood. What you're complaining about is public health policy.
The possibility and the likelihood?
No, I'm sorry. Women spend on average from ages 19 to 35, $3,400 a year on healthcare. How much do you think men spend?
What's the relevance in how the law is written?
$1,900, because Obamacare is meant to lower the cost of healthcare.
It's the basis for how the law is written.
It's the complete basis. What's the difference between possibility and likelihood? Likelihood measures the percentage of chance of you getting it. Possibility simply says any chance above zero.
They're right about this.
Right, but if you have a law written based on the likelihood and the possibility, if you have two genders that have an equal...
No, not likelihood and possibility, dude. It is written on the basis of likelihood.
Okay.
Are you advocating for Medicare for all? Solves your problem.
What I would like to know is, where is this coming from? Why are you on this crusade? What is it in your heart that makes it that out of all the crises that we're facing in this country, you really think that there's some men that just are not getting the fair shake? Where is this coming from, dude?
So this is sort of getting into what I'm talking about. It's going to become more obvious, at least in my opinion. But this is where it's kind of kicking in, and she's looking for a red flag. She's looking for a, what turns you into this male chauvinist? Because she's already made her mind up that that's what he is. I don't believe he is. Yes, I believe he's kind of went a little too far. He's went into the men's right activism and sort of jumped in so hardcore that like he's kind of gotten led astray and he's too biased. But I don't think he's a chauvinist either. And I think that there are some valid points to be made. And by the way, there are many, many issues that are that men have that just I wouldn't call them rights, as Sam kind of brought up, because it really doesn't have to do with that. I don't think it has to do with like any systemic type issue, but there's major problems with men today. This is not talking about me. A lot of people always they do that. The same thing they're doing to this guy. They're trying to like see like through a lens of where your intent is to such an extent that they're like witch hunting, and it's just a fact. It's just true. Like, again, like we have a massive fucking rate at which women are graduating compared to men. It's not because men are stupid. Let's not pull stupidity out here. Men and women, depending on the study, kind of fluctuates back and forth. They're roughly the same. There's actual serious issues going on with men right now. And this isn't just like me pulling shit out of my ass. Like you fucking Google it. Like it don't take long. And you can look for your sources and the studies and peer review. It's not like some fucking thing that I read on a fucking white nationalist website or something. I don't know why I said that, but the point is, this is legitimate, but no one takes it seriously. Not unless it's a women's issue. Anyhow, I kind of went. I already did what I said I was going to try not to do. Mainly, I was just pausing to kind of bring up what she was trying to do here. And at least this is my impression. And I'll continue later.
It's not some men, it's virtually all men and boys. And where it comes from is
I would agree with that. Yeah. Virtually all men and boys have issues with it. Yes, I would agree with you on that.
See that shit? Look at Emma's face. She's smiling, but it's more of a, in my opinion, it's more of a like a wince. It's like it's being polite, but at the same time, it's like, ugh, like she is sort of realizing that this woman is a feminazi. Emma is not. Emma is just a decent human being, in my opinion. And that should show that this is not about male versus female. It's about fucking just being an entitled, shitty human being that just hates people for like no fucking reason. And this woman, Nomiki, is that. And it should be obvious if we continue.
You want me to talk or not talk?
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on a second. Would you like the floor again? Please take the floor.
Now she's trying to make it as if she jumped in, which is absolutely fine, by the way. But it wasn't just that she jumped in. It's that she was fucking rude and condescending when he's trying to make a case here. He called in. This show is about him calling in. It's fine that she made a comment, but he's like, okay, do you want me to talk? And the reason why is because she didn't make a valid point. She's just fucking being an asshole. She didn't make any legitimate point there. So he rightly kind of was like, what the fuck? And then she makes it, and they do this a lot. She tries to make it, oh, you're using your male privilege to like talk over me because I'm a woman. And that's not the case. In fact, he doesn't do that with Emma.
Said 4 words.
We get messages from 13, 14, 15-year-old boys who are scared. Things they hear in school, things they hear from their parents.
I'll be back, guys. I'm going to go throw up.
You going to throw up?
No, go ahead. You get messages from 13, 14, 15-year-old boys who are scared. Yes.
I think Sam even realizes he's trying to get things back on here because Sam he won't call it out because that's his side, so to speak. But he realized this woman's just being a fucking douche. She's a fucking feminazi. She's a shit human being. It's like, it's not about equality for her. It's about fucking women like fucking reigning over men. That's what it's about for her. And she's turned herself into like a fucking victim right now when she is the fucking perpetrator. at least in this particular scenario.
And they hear the rhetoric that is being taught in school. They're being taught men are bad, boys are bad, toxic masculinity, and they're being lectured.
Wait. You telling me that there are schools that say men are bad and boys are bad?
Toxic masculinity is bad.
Well, toxic masculinity is toxic.
But instead of lecturing them, why not listening to where they're coming from? Instead of lecturing, this is why your masculinity is toxic. Why not ask them instead?
Hey, dude, you're playing games here because nobody's saying masculinity is toxic. There is are you denying the existence of a masculinity that is problematic?
I'm saying that it's not up for feminists to just define.
I'm not talking about feminists anything. Who said feminists? I'm asking you a question. Do you think there's any aspects of masculinity that are toxic?
They're also right about this.
No, I think there are aspects of the social expectations on men that are toxic. And
just the expectations. Nothing that men do, nothing that men have been socialized to do over the years in creating what we know as masculinity is in any way toxic.
Of course, look at the draft. Look at conscription.
Oh my God, dude.
Dude, you're not listening to what I'm saying. What is
the draft doesn't exist
what is masculinity
anymore?
One at a time, please.
What is masculinity?
Emma, shut up. In other words, Emma, please stop talking.
Now she's trying to bandwagon the only other female there to get her on her side so that they can be like, see, he's pulling his male chauvinism. He didn't even say anything about women or whatever. He's just trying to be like, you're all fucking jumping in different points, and he's trying to fucking be able to keep up. By the way, so far they're at least the points that Sam has made, and Emma, at least from my point of view, they're correct. They're trying to get across to him that there is toxic masculinity. No one's saying that all masculinity is automatically toxic. It's that he's trying to get him to understand and acknowledge that there is some masculinity that can be viewed as toxic because it's problematic and causes problems for society. That's all they're trying to do. And they're right. But anyway, let's continue.
Please, we need to give the floor back to the man who thinks that masculinity is under attack. One at a time.
What is masculinity?
I would say that masculinity is defined as the social conventions that someone would expect of someone who appears to be man.
Expect?
But I don't
wait. So you don't have masculinity. I impose it on you. Is that what you're saying?
I did not say that, no.
Well, if you're telling me that the definition of masculinity is what other people expect, you're saying it has nothing to do with you, that you don't have masculinity. I impose it on you. That's my expectation.
Sounds like you're gender fluid.
I didn't say
no, not me personally, society. You're saying expectations. Does masculinity exist except for in the expectations of other people?
Society as a whole, yes. I didn't say from you.
No, I understand society as a whole. Can masculinity exist without the expectations of others?
Yes.
Okay, what is it?
I think that if you took 1 million men and 1 million women under the same circumstances and you followed them over 10 years, you would see there were certain trends and certain hobbies and certain interests that men would be more likely to be interested in.
What is it? What?
It doesn't mean that you're defined, and it doesn't mean that you're locked into these roles. It doesn't mean that a woman can't play football and a man can't wear makeup. Those things are totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. What it means is that there are some innate differences.
Dude, are you telling me you're a men's rights activist and you can't even define for me what the word
He's making a valid point here that he's trying to make, and they're not really allowed. At this point, and so far, I kind of agree with the point Sam's made, but now Sam's trying to box him in. He's trying to make him focus just on the thing that he wants to talk about. And the guy's making a very, very valid point right now.
Masculinity means?
Masculinity is not a scientifically defined term. So no.
A social construct is what you're saying?
It's a social construct. And there's nothing about that social construct that is in any way toxic.
Ask 10 different people, you get 10 different answers. So
yeah, but that's not how this works. If you're going to use this as your basis and your argument, you have to actually provide some sort of evidence. Now, I'm really curious because on one hand, you're talking about the economy and how it affects men. But if you're going to go on that, let's talk about how it affects women. Let's just talk about that. Or are you talking about the social construct, which is based on the 10 people that you have in a room who have an opinion?
Nothing on the pay gap, by the way, dude. You're talking about pension funds.
She actually
interested what you think about the pay gap for men and women.
She got into substance.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm going to go back to what
At
Sam
first she was
saying.
just being a dick.
That doesn't shock me.
As a men's rights activist, I wouldn't want to defend masculinity. Secondly, as for the pay gap, men under 40 now earn less than women in the United States. Men are
fundamentally false, dude. Fundamentally false. you know, do you know who the majority of frontline workers were this last year that we all praised frontline workers? They were women of color, mainly women of color. And I don't see you going to bat for the $15 minimum wage. You want to talk about gender equity? You want to talk about men's rights? Then fine, go make sure that women make more money so that you don't have to feel insecure about taking care of the family in the home. If you're so burdened by this, then why don't you advocate for pay equity, a higher minimum wage? Let's talk about the institutional issues that will make you feel more empowered as a man to have a little extra money to go out there and spend on whatever you do in your men's rights movement. You want equity? Fine, let's do it. Sounds great.
So there was a lot there, but I'm pretty sure she's trying to jump into like fundamentally false. She's going back into like the female wage gap, which is highly controversial. They want to make it as if this is something that's like a closed topic. This has already been dealt with, blah blah blah, it's over, and you're just being a male chauvinist. That is not at all true. And I will pull up some actual data on that in a moment. The facts on the matter, at least from my perspective, because again, there's a lot of controversy on this one. And it's, to be fair, it's complicated to figure out when you actually try to focus on every little factor that can change things there. But I'll do that in a moment.
Because I don't.
All right. So wait a second. So, okay. So let's just be clear. Let me just like catch up where we are here. There's no way to define masculinity. So any talk of toxic masculinity, of course, is absurd because we don't even know what masculinity is. But toxic, and so there can't be toxic masculinity because we don't even know what masculinity is. I
know I'm interrupting a lot. I don't like this. While semantics are important, I don't like where they try to make it to where everything hinges on his ability to define it. It's very similar to how the right, and I think Matt Walsh, the fucking moron, has made this whole big viral thing about asking people, what is a woman? As if that somehow made a point. Like, it's stupid. And they're kind of doing the exact same thing on the left. And to be fair, this one's a little more slippery because you do have to like get certain things down. But he's the guy already explained correctly that it's a social construct, and they basically agreed with it. And so he tried, at least at a point there, to make a point of what he's trying to say, because this is complicated shit. Like, you call it men's right activism because that's what people call it. It's like an umbrella term. He's trying to get to the issues that he thinks matters, that people need to address and actually take seriously, but they're getting hung up on, I need you to define masculinity. And it is valid that he's talking about toxic masculinity and trying to get him to realize that, to acknowledge that there is some masculinity that would be considered toxic. That's valid. But at this point, it's kind of getting silly, in my opinion.
And that's impossible to define.
Well, that's not what I said.
It's not what I said.
There's a general sense of masculinity based on the...
Tell me what it is. You keep talking around it. Don't tell me there's a general sense. I'm asking you what it is, and you can't articulate it. So how is there a general sense?
Because there's no specific definition. As you said, there is no specific...
Well, here, let me tell you what toxic masculinity involves. It involves things that end up leading to domestic abuse. Yes, it's not funny when men get hit, but the fact of the matter is the overwhelming amount of domestic abuse in this country is men on women, right?
That is very much debatable.
That is very much debatable. According to psychological literature that I've read, I can't remember. I cannot absolutely show you, but I am pretty sure of what I read, that men have a tendency that, well, it should be obvious. Men do not report it to the same extent that women do. And there's some people that make a claim, and it may be true, I don't know, that men are actually physically assaulted by women in relationships far more often than the other way around. It just simply goes in unreported for obvious reasons. You're called a pussy. Like, even if there's a police officer, if they have a tendency to like have this automatic like, oh, why are you calling us? Like, what a bitch. Or like, it's like it's a societal issue with the way we see these things. And I think that's kind of what he's trying to get around to. It's a valid point. It's a very valid point. But they won't even allow him to even try to fucking make his case. They shut it down because it's like it's against their fucking religion to even entertain the idea of men having any sort of a problem in society. Anyhow, let's continue.
Well, okay, debate it.
Oh boy.
There are statistics that show very, very, very wildly different rates of domestic violence where some studies
So are you telling me, sir, who is calling in, that the domestic violence rates don't tell me there's a debate to be had. Answer it. I don't want answer it. Answer the question. Do men beat women more than women beat men? You tell me, men's right advocate.
This is what I call the what the fuck is that dude's name? The hardcore like Christian crazy he's a black dude. He's like a fucking hardcore conservative, and he always traps people by making them answer a question. He won't allow them to expand or to give additional supporting evidence or whatever to explain what they mean. What's that guy's name? I want to say Peterson or something. I can't fucking remember his name, but anyway, he uses this tactic, and I call that this dynamic of what we're seeing here, this tactic. I call it his name. Yeah, it's intellectually dishonest, and I don't like it, and I don't like it. It's bullshit. He's trying to narrow him down to where he's trapping him into a corner so that he can't make the case he's trying to make. He's not letting him fucking make his case at all.
I would say that, first of all, the studies are inconclusive. And secondly,
we don't know.
Because
we can't know.
It's true. We
don't know.
We don't know.
Okay. So
I want to
we don't know what the rates of domestic abuse are.
Because they're a minority.
Hang on a second, though. What I would like to know,
that doesn't mean
based on your presumption that men and women, we don't know what the actual numbers are. One thing we do have really good sense of the numbers are is how many women end up unhoused because or stuck in domestic abuse situations because of the pay equity issue, in which they cannot leave their home with their partner in a domestic abuse situation because their partner is part of they have to take care of their children, their home.
That's a valid point. She's
separate
right
from a domestic abuse situation, you're put in an unhoused, possibly even more vulnerable situation. We do know the numbers on that, and they're majority women.
First of all, do you think it's possible that because male victims are taken less seriously and they don't get as much help?
I did say that that's true, and it is, but it's changing the goalposts. It's sort of like a whataboutism. It's like, oh, okay. She didn't address it at all, the point that he's making. No one did. Not one person addressed it, really. She did a whataboutism and tried to change the goalpost to, well, we're really, for her, this is like a fucking competition. It's not, hey, we can acknowledge that men have issues that need to be addressed, and we can acknowledge that women have issues that need to be addressed. There's no middle ground here. It's fucking men versus women in her head. You can tell by the way she words things, the way that she completely shuts down any even a moment of trying to entertain what he's saying, which is true, by the way. Well, part of what he said is true, but she just automatically flips it and goes into like a whataboutism about fucking something. It's slightly related, but it's still not addressing the point. It's like when someone goes, hey, you just shot someone in the head. And they're like, well, you shot someone in the head 2 years ago or something like that. It's like an appeal to hypocrisy. And the point is, it doesn't matter. If someone brings up the point that you shot someone in the head, that is wrong. And I'm assuming that that's the reason why they would say that, is to try to bring it up that like, what the fuck? Like, I can't believe you did that. And instead of dealing with that, instead of going, okay, this is why I did it, or trying to defend themselves, they go, oh, well, you did that. It's an appeal to hypocrisy, which is a fallacious argument for a reason. And she's doing that right now.
And they don't have a shelter to go to, that the number of unhoused men is lower.
No, I don't actually, because there's a pay equity issue in which men make more money than women.
Not true, or partially not true. I'll go into that in a moment. But to be fair, he did sort of the same thing just there. It's more fair because he made a point first, and then she changed the goalpost, and then he changed the goalpost back. And I would do the same thing because he's trying to make a point, and he's the one that's crunched on time. They're panelists that stay there, and he's trying to make a point, and she shut him down by changing the goalposts. And I would like not fucking bite for that shit. Fuck that. Like she's playing emotional games here.
That's not true.
Okay, so let's just be here. I just want to sum it up because obviously there's nothing seems to be knowable here. We don't know what domestic rates of violence are. We don't know what the word masculinity means. We also we don't know what the pay disparities are. All we know is that 13, 14, 15-year-old boys are writing into you saying that people are telling them men are bad and boys are bad.
That's not what I said, Sam. That is not being honest at all, and you know
not what he said.
And we do know. So, by the way, we do know the pay gap statistics. When you control for all factors such as working overtime, men and women earn almost identical salaries in the United States. Now, if you take the median male salary,
but why would you control for working overtime?
Why wouldn't you?
Because you're talking about the opportunity to make money.
But women have the same opportunity to work overtime.
No, they don't, because they have kids.
Men have kids too.
Are you telling me that we can't know who has primary responsibility in our society as it exists now for taking care of the kids?
Well, of course, it's true that women are given custody more than men. But if you have a couple, they can absolutely decide, hey, listen, I'm going to work more tonight. You work more tomorrow night. That's a choice they can make.
Now, do you think it's a rational decision do you think it's possible that society rewards men more than women so that if you're economically strapped, there might be more opportunity for men to make money than women?
No.
You don't think that exists?
Oh, interesting.
No,
I mean, look, listen, you're living in a different universe. You're honestly living in a different universe. Then let me tell you why. Let me tell you why so many people respond to you. Listen to me. Listen to me for a second. Let me suggest something to you. Let me suggest something to you because we're going to have to end this at the moment. But I would love you to call back in. Has it occurred to you that the reason why when you portray yourself and when you go out and you go on CNN or whatever it is that you had mentioned in your preface, that people respond to you like I do, like you're a lunatic. That the reason why they're doing that is because everything you're saying, not everything, but the vast majority of what you're saying completely does not comport with their sense of reality. So we've got that type of situation where like you have one sense of reality and everybody else around you, not everybody, but the vast majority of people around you have another sense of reality. And
a lot of people like you have.
This is an appeal to the majority, by the way, on Sam's part. What other people think is irrelevant to what is true and what is not. There was a time that almost the entire world thought that the earth was flat. One person found out through actual measurements and data that that's not true, and he was considered fucking crazy. In fact, his life was threatened. So that's fallacious. It is true that even from my perspective, some of the things the guy said is just a little too far. But they also didn't really give him a chance to make his case for the things that I think he really did want to get into that were valid.
Have a misunderstanding
of things like the dynamic that exists in the workforce, or the dynamic that exists with domestic abuse, or just the concept of like, hey, people didn't have the right to vote, up until fairly recently in our society, or didn't have the right to have their own credit card, or couldn't even have the right to have their own name. I lived in a city when
He's also doing the thing where he's trying to make it a competition. Like he's trying to make a case that we need to look into these issues that are facing men. And in response, he goes, well, what about women? That's fallacious as fuck. It's intellectually dishonest, and he's not addressing the fucking problem. And this is a problem that's not just with Sam. Most of society is doing this exact same fucking thing. And it's sad. It shows you that the left has a hypocrisy issue. They claim that they're all about equity, when that equity is only with like what is established in their little cult of what is considered protected and what is not. Like, if you're a white man, for example, and you have objectively more issue as on an individual level, by the way, we're not talking about big picture here because you have to differentiate these things. But on an individual level, if you're a white man that has way more issues than, say, someone who is some minority and also female or trans and whatever, then by their logic, you have no leg to stand on. You don't have a case at all. And that is fucking retarded. It's wrong. And it's a big part, again, of the reason why many men have went toward Donald Trump. They've went further right because they were pushed away by this crazy feminazi shit. Not just feminazi, but other like extreme social shit that like many people disagree with on a fundamental level, and they have a right to. And like, you're not even allowed to discuss it on the left. Like they shut it down immediately. This is a problem. And it won't go away just by fucking trying to pivot and fucking change the topic and the goalposts, etc. Let's continue.
I was 21 in my city, in the second biggest city in New England. Women were not allowed to register to vote under their maiden name.
But that doesn't invalidate the men's rights issues. Like,
no, what it suggests to me is, listen, you can find subsets of all sorts of people who don't have, in certain specific areas, the same. I mean, I'm not quite convinced that men don't have the same rights, but the don't have equity. But I can tell you that across society, when you look at, I'm not interrupting you because I haven't stopped talking. When you look across society, the net.
He did interrupt him nonstop. But that's one-sided. This is Sam's show. If Sam interrupts you, then, oh, I wasn't done talking yet, and so you can't claim that I'm interrupting you. He did exactly the same fucking thing. Like, it's bullshit.
Relationship in terms of rights in society and be able to move to society with some form of equity. I'm sure if you try, you can find some narrow instances. And I have no doubt that we have not done a good job of trying to change the expectations of what we expect out of men. That has to happen. There's no...
Yeah, work harder, be smarter, because guess what? We're not handing it to you on a platter anymore. If you're the...
Of right.
Look at the fucking evil. Like, you can hear it in her tone. Look at Emma. She's like disappointed in her, but she won't say it. Like maybe for professional reasons or whatever, but this is what I went into earlier. Emma's, at least from my perspective, seems to be a decent human being. Maybe she's like a lowercase feminist that actually wants to address feminist issues, but also realize that there's legitimate claims to problems with men. This woman is a fucking garbage sack of shit. Like, let's watch this one more time.
Find some narrow instances. And I have no doubt that we have not done a good job of trying to change the expectations of what we expect out of men. That has to happen. There's no...
Yeah, work harder, be smarter, because guess what? We're not handing it to you on a platter anymore. If you're the...
Of rights.
It's not what I said.
It's not a question of rights.
No one else thinks that's funny. Even
it's not a question of rights.
For the same
Did you have to say that?
Every subject. Just so you know.
Could it possibly be? I have a theory about people like you, and I don't worry about offending you because you just spent the last 20 minutes basically offending everything that both Em and I have been talking about for the last...
No, he didn't spend any time offending them at all. In fact, she faux outraged during a point to try to act like he was fucking mansplaining to her or whatever and trying to talk over her, which is not true. At no point did he try to offend them. And from my perspective, at no point did he try to like diminish any issues that women faced, but they kept using them as like goalpost changes. That they're changing the subject. They don't want to address it. They don't want to talk about it. So, see, from her perspective, this is all like a fucking battle. It's like men versus women. She is such a like garbage human being.
Last. Hang on a second. I know. I have a theory about you.
You're not the kind of person that would offend me because your opinion of me is not a reflection of myself.
And that is, I'm
Good
so
man.
happy you have that self-confidence. I'm so happy that you just walk through the world thinking that your opinion matters more than everybody else's. But guess what? It seems like you're a little insecure about, I don't know, maybe you have to put in a few more hours and do a little extra work because now immigrants and people of color and women are suddenly outpacing you. There's 10 seats at the table, and I'm sorry, you were the 10th, and now you feel insecure because you don't just get that spot.
Never said that.
No, you didn't say that. That's my theory on you. This reminds me of this one time, and just to give you a little story, I remember, and Sam, you'll appreciate this. I was sitting in a conference room with Ron Hartenbaum and his partner talking about a Sirius XM show, and out of their mouths, these 6-year-olds said to me in their 60s, said, Nomi, we really wanted a woman, and we're really happy that we chose you because you don't have kids, and we knew that you would be able to do this job 3 hours a day and put in the extra work needed because you're still young enough that you don't have kids. But we needed a woman to host the show. Out of their mouths. That is what they said. Do you see what's wrong with that statement? Do you have a sense of that?
Nakomi, is that what I said?
No, that's not my name. I'm sorry. Can you try that again?
Well, wait,
your name is what? I'm looking at your right now. What is your name? Is it
okay.
He can't see. He can't see.
No, it's not.
Okay. It's okay. He's calling.
So finally, at least Sam fucking calls this out. And it basically is like putting her in her place and saying, like, he can't see. He's calling in. And she's always trying to find some way to make him look like he's a male chauvinist when he's shown absolutely no sign of it at all. I haven't seen one fucking point where he seems to be like wanting men to dominate women or some shit. There's no evidence of that at all. She's painting him into that place just because she don't want to deal with the possibility that men might have some issues in society. Fucking garbage.
Into the show because he's a regular viewer. So I'm curious if he was going to do the extra work that people do when they call into shows when they want to debate somebody. Did you do the work? Or you just wanted handed to you? Okay, interesting. Yeah.
Teenage boys and men.
Listen, I'm going to, as a professional feminist, I'm going to give you a little advice now. If you're going to call into a show and debate men's rights, maybe come a little bit prepared. Maybe the issue is that you've just been able to skirt through life just saying like, some people say, and this is my theory. Come in with the facts next time. We'll be ready for you. But in the meantime, I know you're insecure about not being able to just walk into life and get what you want and actually have to do the work now.
And you wouldn't listen.
All right. So Thomas, listen.
And deflect and hold the point. Sam, can I talk to you one-on-one?
Yes, at another time.
Okay. I would like to arrange.
Not now.
I would like to arrange.
Can I have a one-on-one men's rights conversation with you, Sam? Man.
Hash this out. Mano y mano.
Mano y mano.
Or, you know what, fine. Emma can come too.
Oh, thank you.
Come on. As long as you're quiet, you can come.
It's because I'm cool. I drink beer.
No, it's because you're not a fucking feminazi. See, again, she does her best to bring Emma onto her side so that they can fucking tag team because there's two of them. She knows that she doesn't have an actual intellectual fucking logical position, that she's being a fucking retard right now and a piece of shit. And she's hoping that Emma will pull this fucking like female supremacy shit as well. But Emma won't do it. Luckily. There's one decent human being here. Yeah.
With timed responses.
With timed responses.
You have 90 seconds and I have 90.
Well, I'll tell you what, Thomas, why don't you have me on your show?
You want to come on my channel?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Send me an email, majorityreporters@gmail.com.
Why doesn't he want to debate a woman? I'm really curious. I'm just really curious about this whole scenario here. Why don't
It's not that he doesn't want to debate a woman. It's because you are a piece of shit that constantly deflects and fucking changes the topic, changes the goalposts, fucking tries to straw man his position to make him look like a piece of shit when he's never even making anywhere close to the point that you're trying to paint him as. Because you are a fucking privileged, entitled, garbage human being. Not because you're a woman, but because of you specifically, your personality, the way that you view the world.
Why don't you want to debate a woman one-on-one?
We gotta let him go.
Yeah, I gotta let you go.
I would absolutely.
He's dead already.
Oh, he'll do it.
I did say Emma can come, but correct me if I'm wrong. Sam is the name of the channel. It's called The Majority Report with Sam Sater. Is that true or false?
Sam Sater, yes.
Right.
He did his research.
Thomas, send me an email at majorityreporters@gmail.com. We're going to have some fun, buddy.
I already have.
Oh, well, very good. Very good. Very good.
Goodbye.
I'll give you the special men's rate too when I come on. We'll talk to you later.
But Sam.
Yeah.
God.
It was good. Sorry, folks. I want to issue an apology.
Why is he issuing an apology? If anything, he should be apologizing for constantly cutting the dude off, because I'm sure at least some of his viewers that aren't in an echo chamber actually wanted to hear his actual position and the points that he wanted to make instead of being constantly fucking talked over and cut off. And like, this fallacious fucking reasoning that you guys are fucking pulling out.
And with a 30-minute conversation with a fedora.
Yep. I want to issue an apology to Emma and to Nomi and to our entire audience.
No, don't you mean no?
I'm
I'm the last person who's going to be able to sort of judge somebody. Pronounce.
It's okay. It's our thing, Sam. It's not like.
All right. Should we move on?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's keep talking about this. I'd love to.
Wow, I mean, that was like a whole hour of the fuck off on Jimmy Dore and then men's rights.
I know. I apologize, folks. I'm so sorry.
Oh, man.
What a day.
I am so sorry.
Whoops. Whoops. All right. I survived it. I should have been asleep by now. Okay. So let's go into some of the points here. Dude didn't even get a chance to present his case. And I'm not exactly like a hardcore champion of men's rights in general, but he did, and I believe he probably had some valid points, because I know of some points myself that I think need to be addressed. So yeah, let me go ahead and get through this real quick. I'm going to include what I'm about to read, some excerpts from what I'm about to read. I will include the link in the video description. If you are interested in it, at least, if I forget, fucking remind me in the comments and I'll post it later, because I have a very terrible memory, and then I get really easily distracted and go on to other shit, as you should notice by now with my train of thought. And right now I'm distracted by my pipe, but that is on purpose. That's important. That's my vitamin N, my nicotine daily allotment. No apologies for that one. All right. This is from the Foundation for Economic Education. This was posted March the 30th, 2017. It's entitled Truth and Myth on the Gender Pay Gap. So I'm going to read what is mythical, the headline, and what is not a myth. So it should be obvious. I'm not trying to fucking just skim certain shit to make my fucking biased statement, and I'm just using like confirmation bias, whatever. Yeah, I'm going to include both. For decades, critics of markets have trotted out the claim that women make only a percentage of what men do as evidence that markets discriminate against women. Early on, women were claimed to make only about 65% of what men do. Now that number is more like 80%. So one observation from the start is that the gap, whatever its causes, has narrowed since the 1970s. But why would people claim this is a myth? Two reasons. First, if the critics are claiming that the 80% number means that when men and women with the exact same skills and experience and preferences do the exact same work, that women get paid 80 cents for every dollar men do, they are wrong. That is not what the 80% figure shows. Rather, that number is the ratio of female to male wages among full-time workers across all kinds of jobs and regardless of the skills and preferences of the workers. That 80% is an aggregate. It is not an apples-to-apples comparison of men and women doing the same work. Thus, the claim that women get paid 80% of what men do for the same work is a myth. Correspondingly, the other myth is that the missing 20% represents discrimination by employers. Once we understand where the gap figure comes from, we know right away that this other claim is a myth. To know if there is discrimination, we'll need to make the apples-to-apples comparison. In fact, that is what economic studies of the gap attempt to do. They attempt to hold everything else constant and compare employees who are as similar as possible and who are in jobs as similar as possible, except that some are male and some are female. If there is a gap left unexplained by skills and experience, then economists treat that presumptively as due to discrimination pending further studies. The consensus of those studies is that clear majority of the gap is explained by skills, experience, and preferences. So it is a myth that the missing 20% is all due to discrimination. What is not a myth? You'll notice that I said the clear majority of the gender wage gap is explained by factors other than discrimination, but not all of it. The consensus of the economic studies is that there are still about 3 to 5 percentage points of the 20%, or roughly 15 to 25% of the gap, that cannot be accounted for by economic differences and that might be due to discrimination. So it is not a myth that there might be discrimination in labor markets. Even the economic studies that show that most of the gap is explained by other factors do not say that all of the gap can be accounted for by such things. Although the economic studies don't test directly for discrimination, the fact that other kinds of studies suggest that it exists in labor markets is consistent with the existence of an economically unexplained portion of the gap. People who want to argue that the 80% figure is mythical therefore need to be very precise in saying exactly what is mythical about it. The most accurate summary is something like the following. It's a myth that women get paid only 80% of what men do when they have the same skills and experience and are doing the same work, but it's also a myth to claim that economics shows there is no gender discrimination in labor markets, because studies show that economic factors cannot explain all of the gender wage gap. So, yeah, I'll try to remember to fucking link that. It's not 80%, not even close. So there's 3 to 5 percentage points, which is unexplained, and that may be an issue. And by the way, if we can determine that that is an issue with discrimination, and it seems like it may well be, we should remedy that. We should find a way to fix that problem, because I am egalitarian in nature for things like this. So the issue, and one of the few things that I agree with Jordan Peterson on, is we want equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. Equality of outcome is fucking evil. It's wrong. I really shouldn't need to explain why that is wrong. So yeah, I'm not going to. Fuck it. Like, that should be extremely obvious. I'm not going to go into fucking detail about that. I'm pretty tired right now. But I will try to link what I just read there. But you see this bullshit that I'm talking about, these fucking fallacious arguments and this illogical way of debating. And it seemed almost like at the end that Sam was like silently apologizing for the behavior of that one woman, because she was a complete fucking asshat. And the sad thing is, many people watch that and like they see her behavior, and it's just so normalized now that it's like, oh, she's right. She's right. No, she's not. Like, I'm not saying that the statistics that she cited were incorrect, but it's not relevant. She's changing the goalposts, and she's trying to make things into this fucking battle between men and women, which is, from my point of view, not what the guy was trying to do at all. Bullshit. And very shitty fucking tactics. That sort of a show should not exist if they're going to employ that sort of fucking, this whole, there's like an arbitrary collectivist fucking lean toward what they do. They'll shut people down using shit tactics, and they quote win through emotion by manipulating viewers and what they see and what they hear, by, if they even believe that something is about to be said that goes against their narrative, they either pivot or they go to something slightly related but different, a la changing the goalposts, or they fucking just they use emotion to paint the person, or use an ad hominem attack. Sometimes ad hominems aren't direct, like, hey, you are a male chauvinist. They're a little bit more clever. They're sly. They'll try to make this case by a cleverly worded question or something. And this is bullshit debate tactics, and it should not happen. And if it does, then, in my opinion, the victory should be given to the person calling in immediately, even if they're wrong, because if you have to do shit like that to quote win, then you clearly don't have a very strong case. Thank you for your time.